In this video, we are going to revise aggregate output price and economic growth, that is reading 14 of CFA level 1 curriculum. So, gross domestic product. Gross domestic production is the total value of goods and services produced in a country in an accounting year. So, in GDP, we include all the value of final goods and services produced, but intermediary goods are not included in the national income because the intermediary goods portion is already included in the final goods portion. For example, take an example of a car manufacturer who purchases tires from the tire manufacturer. So the price of car includes the price of tire. So again, the the income generated from the tire manufacturer company should not be included as it is already included in the national income by car manufacturer. So GDP include value of owner, that is a self-owned house should also be treated as an GDP income for calculation of GDP. So GDP can be calculated by using three ways, that is value-added method, income method, and expenditure method. But in CFA curriculum, income expenditure method is further classified into two methods, that is final output method and value-added method. So differentiation is not a matter, but next we'll come calculate GDP in different ways. So let's first start with income calculation of GDP by using income method. So in income method, GDP is equal to national income plus capital consumption allowance plus statistical discrepancies. National income here means compensation to employees plus gross operating surplus, that is EBIT of companies, and gross mixed income is that labor is acting himself as a labor as well as capital, and tax means subsidies on production. Production plus reducing effect of tax and subsidies should be added back to the national income, and same tax means subsidies on imports and exports. So the net value of goods will be added. So we'll arrive at national income, but then add back capital consumption allowance, that is wear and tear of the machinery in the current year, that is depreciation portion should be reinvested in order to keep the uh, production level constant with that of previous year. And there is any statistical discrepancies, any change or miss any change in methods is adjusted by using statistical discrepancies. So next expenditure methods discusses that GDP is equal to consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus exports minus imports, C plus I plus G plus X minus M, where consumption of individuals, investment is the government investment is what people save, they invest in a company, so it is an expenditure in the point of view of companies, and government spending is what government spend. The total spending of economy is GDP, and including exports minus imports too. So GDP can also be calculated by using consumer spending on final goods and services plus gross business fixed investment and change in inventory. These both are treated as investment itself, and government spending plus exports minus imports and statistical discrepancies. Of course, the terminology changes here, but both are the same. So yeah, then GDP in income method can also be calculated like consumption plus savings plus tax, because whatever the income generated by the population is either consumed saved after payment of tax. So GDP is equal to consumption plus savings plus tax. And value added method is, we know that whatever the value added in the manufacture for the process is added back in the national income. So personal disposable income is what is the income that is left over for the population, for the people to spend. So that is national income plus transfer payments, any pensions or subsidies received by individuals, and the taxes minus taxes paid minus corporate taxes minus undistributed corporate profit, that is reserves maintained by the corporations. So next, we'll move on to the nominal GDP versus real GDP. To say nominal GDP is a current year GDP, that is current year GDP, but however, a current year GDP does not give us an appropriate measure because the GDP can increase due to factors of inflation. So even the quantity remains same due to the inflation factor, GDP will be shown as it is grown when compared to the previous years. However, if you want to know the true GDP, that is true increase in the quantity produced in an year, you need to understand real GDP. So what we do in real GDP is we'll take a base year, or indexation should be done in order to compare the previous years with that of current year. So how is our real growth is in our economy. So nominal GDP is that GDP does not give a true growth, because inflation factor change in price will also lead to an growth in GDP, but it is not a true sense. So what actual GDP is, quantity produced incrementally is what the actual GDP which we need to consider. So for converting nominal GDP to real GDP, we will use like real GDP is equal to nominal GDP by GDP deflator. GDP deflator is what is a change in nominal to real GDP. That is, change in price should be adjusted by using GDP deflator. In order to know the real GDP of nation, you can find real GDP is equal to nominal GDP by GDP fact deflator into 100. So investment is a function of expected profitability and cost of capital. That is, when the GDP is growing, the people are willing to invest more in order to expecting that future there is a growth prospect. And when cost of capital is low, then companies can invest in projects, more projects when cost of capital is low. So the discounting rate will be low, and NPV is positive for more projects. So investment opportunities will be high. And yeah, marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to save is the what if there is any change in income, what is the change in consumption as well as savings is described by using marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to. So simply it's a ratio of consumption by income, or change in consumption by change in income, by change in savings by change in income. So the total ratio will always be equal to 1. So marginal propensity to consume plus save, marginal propensity to save equals to 1. The relationship between aggregate income and aggregate expenditure. So we know that calculation of GDP can be done by using 3 ways: value-added method, income, and expenditure method. So income method, whatever income generated, GDP computed by using income method will be same that of expenditure method. So both the GDP should be equal. So by using those factors, that is by expenditure and income method, we'll we'll equate both the equations. So we'll get savings is equal to investment plus government expenditure minus taxation or revenue plus export minus import. So the government expenditure minus taxation is called as physical balance, and export minus imports is trade balance. Physical balance is of 2 types. That is, when government expenditure is more than taxation, it is fiscal deficit, and vice versa is fiscal surplus. So when there is a deficit in the government, when there is deficit, that is more expenditure is made, the expenditure which the government incurred more should be set off by excess private savings in economy or trade deficit. Whatever decrease in this should be adjusted by this and this both portion. So next we move on to the consumption function. Consumption function is what variables affect the consumption. That is, firstly, the consumption function is completely affected by disposable income. That is, whatever the income that is available for the consumer to spend. So when personal income increases, the consumption of good increase and savings increase. And also taxes decreases, the real income the consumer can spend increases, so the consumption increase as well as savings increase. But for wealthy individuals, when the disposable income even increase, he consume more and save less, because he already have wealth which he wants. So average propensity to consume is what averagely people are consuming and savings, and whatever the savings which we made is the investment in financial assets. So next we move on to the IS and LM curve, simply to say the aggregate demand and aggregate supply uh, of all these things. So let's start. Yeah, IS curve, investment savings curve, where we'll compare interest with that of income. So let's analyze this. When interest decreases, people are not that interested to save more, they will increase their consumption currently. So when interest decreases, the cost of capital will also decreases. So what happens is investment opportunity increase, because when the discount rate is low, we will discount the future cash flows with lower discount rate. So we can accept more number of projects, so our investment opportunity will increase. Our investment opportunities will increase. So when savings decrease and investment increase, the net amount will decrease gradually. So what we can do is we will can offset by using taxation or mm, taxation or imports. That is, we need to have higher taxes or high imports. When taxes will be high, when people have more income. So when income increases, the taxes will be more, and export imports will be more. So when interest rate decreases, the income increases directly. So we can understand the flow. So interest rate is indirectly proportionate to the income. By this we can get that interest rate is indirectly proportionate to the income. So you can see that when interest rate is at peaks, the real income is low, then compared to less low interest rate, the real income will be higher. So LM curve also discuss the same. In order to understand LM curve, let's first discuss what is quantity theory of money. Quantity theory of money describes as that money supply into velocity is equal to price level into real income. Velocity is a circulation of money, and so when we kept constant velocity as well as income, because those are not frequently changed in an year period. So when there is an increase in money supply, the price levels will also increase. So money supply is directly related to the price level, that is inflation or deflation factor in economy. Or we can restate the formula as M by P is equal to K into Y. K is also called as 1 by V, or 1 by velocity, is the proportionate of money people want to hold in cash. So when price increases, so in this situation, when price increases, the real income will decreases. But when price decreases, the real income will increase for the people. So when interest rate increases, people don't want to hold cash because their opportunity cost, they will lose the interest opportunity. So they invest in bonds or securities. So the money supply in economy will decrease. So that's the reason why interest rate increases, uh, money supply decreases, and when interest rates are low, money supply is higher. As you can see in the graph, that's it. And is and lm curves, when the intersection point is optimal gdp or optimal real income, the output that country should produce. And demand curve is arrived by using price is when price increases. For understanding demand curve, when price increases, the real income of people decreases, as we've seen in this case, that how effect of money supply have upon a price factor. So and interest rate increases, when price increases, real income decreases, and interest rate increases. So overall, the quantity demand for people decreases. So our analysis came to that when price increases, quantity demand will decrease. That is, aggregate demand is downward sloping, the reason. So the points where uh, the demand curve meets the LM curves, that is the optimal output at different LM curves. So let's move on to the next topic, aggregate supply. Aggregate supply is divided into three, that is very short run aggregate supply, short run aggregate supply, long run aggregate supply. Very short run aggregate supply is within a year or quarters. So short run is for 1 year or more, and long run is more than 5 years in long period of time. Like, okay. So in very short run, the prices cannot be changed by the supplier. Whatever he can do is he can increase the output or decrease output. So the very short run aggregate supply will remain constant, but in short run he can change the prices. So the supply curve is upward sloping. But in long run, whatever increase in price is offset by the increase in input prices, so he will not increase his output, because whatever the increment in price is set off by the price of inputs and wages. So shift in aggregate demand, as we have already discussed in the previous topic, that the aggregate demand shift in aggregate demand happens when there is a factor other than effect other than price. So demand curve will move upward or downward. So downward means decreasing demand, and upward is increasing demand. Aggregate supply to the change in aggregate supply due to factor other than price. Then aggregate supply curve will move shift to a new aggregate supply curve. Recessionary and inflationary gap. So uh, so in this case where the real output in economy is this, where, but however, due to increase in aggregate demand, it is moving this, but this is due to increasing inflation factor. So what the government need to do in this case is they need to do contractionary policy. They need to reduce the they need to reduce the money supply and increase the interest rates in order to move back to this position. But however, if there is an recessionary gap, that is supply is less when compared to actually required, then government will do expansionary policy by increasing money supply and everything. So it can achieve the long run equilibrium, that is a norm optimal GDP. So let's consider the different movements in demand curve. So aggregate demand curve decreases. That means this is long run, short run, and aggregate demand curve. Then aggregate demand curve first moves downwards because there is a decrease in aggregate demand. So what happens is the GDP will reduce and price will increase. So in order to recover that, what the government will do, what then aggregate demand decreases. So when aggregate demand decreases, there is a scope for unemployment and wages. The suppliers start reducing the wages. So what happens is short run aggregate supply curve will increase due to lower cost. So the supply curve will shift towards rightward. So or government can do expansionary policy when the supply curve move to a new point, then they can achieve to a new point where they can move again, achieve the nominal or real GDP. And when aggregate demand increases, firstly the aggregate demand move rightwards, then this is due to inflation factor, so the price increases and demand also increases. So there is full employment in economy, but there is high inflation. Due to this, the input prices and the wages will increase, which makes the supply to decrease. So from supply will shift leftwards, because due to high cost of inputs, so the supply curve will move leftwards. So there, we achieved again a new GDP, optimal GDP level. So next we move on to the stagflation. Stagflation is a situation where it happens due to increase in input cost, that is increase in a cost such as wages, raw material. So which makes the supply curve will move towards left side. Supply curve will move towards left side. So what happens is input cost increase, supply curve will move left side, sorry, left side. So what government can do is do expansionary policy. It can lead to full employment. When the government expansionary, aggregate demand will move towards right side, so we can again move to the new optimal GDP level. But by doing this, aggregate demand will increase, but prices will increase severely. From this point, the price increase to this. So alternatively, the government can also do is reduce aggregate demand. But if we reduce aggregate demand, that is, if a government reduce the aggregate demand, the GDP also reduces severely. So it can't do that. So then what it can do is it can also decrease. So government can, the regulation or supplier can decrease wages and other input costs. So we can achieve again to the equilibrium point. But this is slow process and it will affect severely the economy. And decreasing input prices. So decrease in input prices, when there is a decrease in input prices, the supplier will is willing to supply more of the goods. So what he the supply curve will shift rightwards, due to which the GDP will increase. So full employment is even present in the economy. And next, this is a short run macroeconomic effect is what we have discussed earlier. The effect of each and everything upon is described in a table, so you can understand this. But next, move on to the changes in aggregate demand and supply. When aggregate demand increases and short-run aggregate supply curve, that is short-run aggregate supply curve increases. So the aggregate demand curve increase and aggregate supply curve increase. So there is an increase in GDP and price level increase in GDP, but increase or decrease in price is dependent based upon the magnitude. That is, which factor is increasing more. When aggregate demand increase more when compared to aggregate supply, sorry, when aggregate demand increased more when compared to aggregate supply, the price will increase, otherwise the price will decrease. So it has a magnitude upon the supply or demand curve on the price. So aggregate demand decreases and aggregate supply decreases. So demand curve shift leftwards and aggregate supply curve shift leftwards. So this result in decrease in GDP and the price level is depend upon the magnitude, or that is which supply or aggregate demand moves more, it will have an impact on the price. So when aggregate demand increase, aggregate short run aggregate supply decreases. So when aggregate demand increase, move towards right side and left side. So the real GDP will be constant, but prices increase from this point to this point. And next, aggregate demand decrease and the short run aggregate supply increase. Same thing happens. The aggregate demand moves leftwards and aggregate supply rightwards, which the GDP is optimal, but the prices has been reduced to this extent. From here to price reduced to this, so the price level will decrease in this case. So the sources of sustainable economic growth, what how can we maintain this economic growth sustainable over the period? That is labor force. That is when the country, when the nation has high labor force participation, that is people working more, then it can supply more of a good and economic growth will be high. And human capital, the the population should be efficient and productivity would be when productivity is high, then it can achieve economic growth faster. And physical capital stock, that is providing laborers with proper capital equipment, that is providing employees with proper laptops for having a good productivity of the labor and reduce idle time. So it will also improve the economic growth, and technology has a huge impact on the economic growth and natural resources too. When the country possesses high natural resources, then it can have a good growth. So potential GDP is depends upon both the hours the employees can work as well as productivity of the laborer. Right? That means in hour how productive he can be. So the growth potential of GDP is growth in labor force plus growth in labor production. So the sustainable growth is what we used for long-term valuation, that is the growth factor in equity valuation. So production function described by Cobb Douglas is production function is a relationship. Uh, Output is related to technology, size of labor force, and capital available in the nation. So what he described also is uh, output per output per worker, that is Y by L is equal to technology into factor of physical capital per worker. But however, the physical capital per labor is already high in developed countries, so they always try to use this technology factor to increase their growth. However, the developing countries don't have physical capital that abundant to the labor, so they will try to increase this. They will try to increase this. So the developing countries try to increase their capital per labor. However, the developed countries, already developed countries, will try to increase their technology more. So growth in potential GDP is also defined a formula as growth in technology plus weight of labor into growth in labor plus weight of capital into growth in capital. So growth in per capita potential GDP is growth in technology plus working weight of growth in capital into weight of capital into growth in capital to labor ratio. That is availability of technology per labor. When there is an enough technology available to the labor, the productivity of labor will maximize. So developed countries have capital to labor ratio high. So here we have forwarded one thing, the diminishing marginal productivity. That is, whenever we provided the laborers with technology, the capital, the physical capital required, but even giving more physical capital does not improve the growth of our economy because they already possess whatever they need. So that's it.